Welcome to Connection Oasis. We're Hope and Renee, two friends sharing our stories, lessons, and laughter.
Everyone who's crossed our path has taught us something about ourselves, and that's what we explore here: connection, growth, and a little humor along the way.
Family heirlooms. What comes to your mind when I say that word?
Oh, all of the dishes that were passed down to me when I got my first place.
Yeah. Did you love them all? Like,
Oh
did you?
no,
Oh, you
no,
didn't?
but I used them out of necessity. It's what I had.
Do you plan to give them to your children?
Absolutely not.
No.
Most of them are gone. Most of them are already gone.
Oh, okay, good. So as soon as you could get rid of them, you did.
Yes, absolutely. They did not serve the purpose fully that I hoped they would.
Okay. I don't think actually I'm actually kind of surprised to hear that, honestly, because I thought I maybe was the only one who didn't love some of the family heirlooms that I received. And so it's good to hear that maybe this is more common than I thought. Um and in this chapter, we're going to talk about some of the family heirlooms, but they're not dishes and they're not quilts, which is what I received that I didn't love.
Hmm.
They
Yeah.
are more about the patterns that we
Hmm.
inherit from our families, and how we can recognize those
Hmm.
and then decide if we love them. What is that? What does that love it or list it show? Maybe if we want to love them or if we want to list them. I think one of the hardest parts of becoming self aware is realizing that understanding my story didn't actually change anything.
Hmm.
It was a big step. It needed to happen. I needed to understand it, but it even though I can explain everything, the way I react to things, the way my relationships work, the way I show up, certain patterns that keep showing up, um, that's all good to understand and know, but it didn't change anything.
Right. The reality is, having a realization is a step. The bummer is it's only a beginning. I think sometimes the realization is such a punch in the gut that it can feel dizzying. And while analyzing and reanalyzing our epiphanies, it's easy to lose sight of the fact that now something has to change. It initially feels like progress, even if nothing is actually different.
So true. I got stuck there for a while, because when I started working through my relationship with my mom,
Hmm.
it just was extremely difficult.
Yeah.
There was so many conflicting feelings about it. I admired many things about her, and there was a lot that I was grateful for. But there were also things that shaped me in ways I didn't understand at the time. So it's very confusing.
Yeah. So was it obvious to you what those things were, or did it show up more in how your life was actually playing out?
It definitely started showing up in my life first, and it still does today. I mean, just yesterday, I was having this conversation with a family member about an ongoing issue, and I was amazed at how much I can still see some of the stuff in our daily lives. So my one of my family members, Steve, he was messaging me about an event that he was hosting this weekend.
Hmm.
And since I don't live near my family anymore, I had no idea about this event. I wasn't invited, obviously. So it was news to me that he was having this event. And he mentioned that some other family members were not going to be there. And I was shocked because these were people who typically always go to these types of events. And I was
Hmm.
like, well, why wouldn't Sarah and Susan come? And he's like, well, because of what happened at Christmas. And I'm like, okay, what happened at Christmas?
Let's step back in time.
And he's like, you don't know? I'm like, no, I'm out of the loop down here, right? Like,
Yeah.
so he's like, okay, well, For Christmas, they had decided that they would do gift exchange just for the kids, for the younger kids in the family.
Yeah.
And so it came time to do the gift exchanges, and Steve's wife is always the one in the kitchen taking care of everything behind the scenes, making sure all the food is taken care of, that we have everything we need. She is so great at all of that, but she gets very caught up in it. And so when it came time for the gift exchange, she was not really even paying attention.
Mm.
And so another member of the family, Sarah, her grandson did not have a gift to open.
Oh.
And it turns out that it was because Steve had and his wife had bought his gift, and it was a gift card. And she had put it in her pocket before the day started and meant to get around to putting it in a gift bag and getting it ready. But because she got so just involved in the food process and everything going on, she
Mhm.
just totally forgot she even had it in her pocket.
Oh. Yeah, yeah.
So when Sarah's grandson didn't have a gift to open, she, what I now see, became very triggered.
Mhm.
And stepping back now, I can see that, there was a lot of past hurts that came out in her reaction.
Yeah.
And knowing her background, she had a very, very rough childhood. Her mother basically just abandoned her one day and took off and went to Florida and literally left her in the home alone at, I want to say she was like 11 years old.
Wow.
And so the rest of our family helped to raise her. But because of that, I can only imagine, I've never talked to her about it, but I can only imagine that there may be some abandonment issues that came up when this happened with her grandson. There may have been some not fitting in, feel like she was never really part of the family completely, like she would have if she had grown up with her mom.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so now stepping back, I can see how all of that came out in her reaction.
Yeah, absolutely.
Also, when I found out that another family member was not going to his event, it was someone who I totally would have expected to go. I felt like they've always been extremely close and they've had a very nice bond. And so when he told me how hurt he was that this person was not coming, and he was like, I've never felt like I was truly part of the family, and this person always made me feel that way. And the fact that she's not coming is very hurtful.
Wow.
And so I'm just sitting here 1,000 miles away from the situation, not involved at all, and feeling all of this that before I would have been like, well, that person's, just crazy. This person always overreacts. This one loves the drama, and my family is just that way, you
Yeah,
know.
yeah.
But as I started working on where I started picking up all of this at. And now I can look back at it differently. I just see all of these things coming out in this situation. It definitely continues to play out in my life. And it just hits me very differently now. I see all of the hurt that gets triggered. I see the past that still sits in the present. And I understand more why each person is showing up the way they do.
Yeah, absolutely. I think when we're children, we just accept the circumstances of our lived reality as fact. And so that felt like these are facts, in your
Hmm.
family.
Yeah, I mean, I could point to where it came from all the way from childhood. So I stayed there for a long time. Even during the conversation with my family member, I felt almost justified and validated because it was kind of like, okay, yeah, I was right. This is where it all came from. Like this is what I was taught, how I
Yeah.
was, how I was taught to react. So it's very easy to stay in that mindset and be able to be like, okay, I'm justified. I get it. Like this is where I am. This is how I got here, and that's the end of it. And sometimes that might feel like progress, but it's not.
Yeah, sometimes figuring out that a belief that felt like an absolute before, when you were younger, is no longer in alignment with where you want to go. So that in and of itself is important that you had this, understanding, this epiphany, but it is by no means actual progress, to get you where you want to be.
Right, because nothing actually changes at this point. You get really good at explaining your life and
Hmm.
but you're also just continuing to live in those same patterns. And
Yeah.
I didn't see that at first. What I thought was awareness, then eventually just started to turn to blame. And I didn't
Hmm.
really call it that. If someone had said to me like, "Oh, you're just blaming that person," I'm like, "I'm not blaming it. I just understand it. I was just being
Yeah.
honest, right?"
Right.
So
Yeah.
this is what happened, and this is why I am the way I am. It all felt very justified.
Yeah, this is a hazard that I call quicksand. So when you analyze and you overanalyze, because this revelation that you've had, it's like a ton of bricks,
Mhm.
and I feel like you really do have to just sit with it for it to really fully sink in.
Right. And but I was not any happier knowing this. It was still very incomplete. I was focusing on what had been done to me.
Hmm.
Um, I wasn't looking at what I was doing. And until I did that, nothing changed. But once I did that, things did start to shift. Obviously, not all at once. But I slowed down and I started paying attention not to the story or the explanations, but to my behavior. And
Hmm.
I started seeing patterns, how I react in conversation, how quickly I got defensive or triggered, might be a
Hmm.
better word,
Yeah.
how I interpreted things that people say. And it started feeling familiar, not like a memory, but just like a cycle I had lived in my whole life.
Yeah, I understand completely. That's my quicksand. I think I am taking steps forward, but somehow I'm still right where I started, that feeling. And,
Mm-hmm.
then you start recognizing that I still feel unsatisfied with these relationships that I'm having.
Yes. And I remember this moment so clearly because it wasn't, a lot of times when we've talked about some of these things, I might use words like it was quiet, it was subtle,
Hmm.
I had to really sit with it. This was not. This
Hmm.
was like you said, a ton of bricks just hitting me, like everything just stopped because I
Yeah.
realized that I wasn't just someone who had been impacted by these patterns, but I was continuing them.
Yeah.
That hit me so hard because once you start resenting some of these things, which I did,
Hmm.
and then you realize that you're also doing them,
Yeah, I get that.
it's a kind of a conundrum because it's like, oh my, like I'm so pissed about X, Y, and Z. But then yesterday I also did X, Y, and Z. Like, how do you reconcile that in your head?
Yeah.
I had become very angry at some of those things that had been done to me, but I never stopped to ask, like, what am I doing that's keeping this going? Like, both on
Hmm.
my side and their side. Because if you interact the same way in your life
Hmm.
and in your relationships, then the same things keep happening. And so I wasn't taking on their reaction as part of my responsibility, but I was taking responsibility for being stuck in this pattern
Hmm.
because I wasn't doing anything differently to change it. And I was so dumbfounded, just completely like, oh my God, I can't believe the thing I've been so angry about, I've also been participating in.
Yeah, I get that. That is such a tough realization because you had to choose now if you do things differently or, you just stick with the routines that are familiar and that are kind of a knee-jerk reaction.
Yeah. And they oftentimes they come so quickly that you're like, oh crap, I really meant to not react that way this time.
I so get that. I so get that.
So, it wasn't that everything just shifted for me at that time just because I realized it. Um, I really did take a conscientious decision that am I going to continue this or am I going to stop it?
So then you began the work of climbing out of that quicksand.
Right. Because it felt so heavy at first. It felt nearly impossible to get out of. Like, great, now this is my fault too. Like, I can't just blame everybody else.
Yeah.
And it was about figuring out where I did have the control. Um, because honestly, at that point, staying stuck would have been a choice. And
Mm,
I decided
yeah.
not to make that choice.
Yeah. What's interesting is I had the opposite experience.
Yeah, yeah, you lived completely on the opposite side of this.
Yeah. I internalized blame for seemingly letting other people down. So
Mm,
I saw all the things that I suffered in my youth as shortcomings of mine, and that
mm,
became my reality, my fact. And I had so much empathy for other people that I could always rationalize why they did what they did. And because I could, I tended to excuse behaviors.
yeah, so instead of holding them accountable.
Yeah, I took it all on myself. And if something went wrong, then I thought, I should have handled it better. Or if somebody hurt me, then I thought I should have communicated better. Or if something didn't work out, I assumed that I needed to fix something with myself. And
Wow.
that was my reality as I perceived it.
So that is so opposite of my experience, but we were both stuck in a loop, in a pattern.
Yeah, we both focused way too much attention on blame. And blame allows rationalization. And
Hmm.
then rationalizing why we do what we do distracts us from making the change.
Yeah, that's why it's so hard to get out of.
Yeah, blame is an excuse for not making progress, and it is camouflage for inaction. And so, in order to progress, then we have to make a decision and we have to set that goal for what we are going to change and what we're going to do differently.
If you really don't stop and question, is blaming actually getting me anywhere? Is it doing anything? Am I solving anything by blaming someone? Then yeah, you'll be stuck in it forever.
Hmm.
We're such very different people in very situations, so it's really interesting to see that we had the same pattern.
Yeah. And so both of our situations, the shift came when we began to focus on moving from blame to calling it understanding. Now I understand this, and it doesn't
Mm,
matter who was actually to blame. I just am going to be different going forward.
yeah. It's about clarity and
Hmm.
asking if what you're doing is actually helping you move forward or stay stuck.
Right. Because it doesn't matter if you're blaming everybody else or blaming yourself, you're still stuck in the quicksand.
Yeah. So once you see that you do want to make a change and that blame is not action, that's where things actually did start to change for me. Not definitely not outwardly and not overnight. This is where I did a lot of my really, really hard work, and I had amazing realizations and understanding myself on a completely different level. But I had not learned how to show up differently. I had not learned how to stop those outward patterns yet. Sure, there were some small changes I was able to make, but I don't know if anybody even noticed them, to be honest. But as far as my relationships, most people didn't see any big differences, which was for me sometimes extremely discouraging because I had all of this going on inside. I was doing the really hard work. And so far, me and you and my counselor were the only people that even knew I was working on changing because it was just so internal.
Mhm.
And so if anyone else is in this process and you just feel like that inside you feel so much differently and you know
Mhm.
you're making progress, but nobody seems to know it, you still get pigeonholed into this or that, or
Mhm.
maybe, called a name like I call my family crazy or whatever. Um, um, just know that you are making huge progress. There are layers that have to be gone through, and they're not visible. They're just not visible to other people right away. And that will take time. But be proud of yourself, reassure yourself, and know that people will start to see it eventually. It will start to translate into your daily life and into your relationships. It's just not happening at the moment. But that was a really hard part for me because I was like, oh my God, like I had such a great week. I had all of these breakthroughs, and I would talk to my counselor and she'd be like, great job. Like, I'm so proud of you. And then like my next conversation with whoever was just a disaster still. So
Oh, yeah, it's just staying the course.
yeah, keep at it. Thanks for joining us here at Connection Oasis, where we discuss real life lessons about relationships and boundaries.
And becoming who you actually are without the fluff.